So I just watched the Monster Hunter movie, the 2020 release Monster Hunter movie adaptation. It's bad. Real bad. You see, Monster Hunter is a series that I've just recently got into. I've been playing Rise and World for a couple months now. I bought Rise originally, and then when I thought I beat the game, I got into World, and it's just a game that sucked me in. And while I was playing, I remembered that a while ago I watched a movie based on this game. And thinking, oh hey, since I've played the games, maybe I can go back and watch the movie. I knew the movie was bad, but now that I had a understanding of how the games worked, I just wanted to go back and see how the movies compared to the game. And it is worse than I imagined. It was so bad, it literally ruined the rest of my day, and I did nothing but play Monster Hunter to try to give myself a good experience with the title. Now, if you want a grand, in-depth video about why Monster Hunter the movie is conceptually a bad movie, aside from the game, then go check out this Filmento video. He does videos like this, and he does a way better job explaining how bad of a movie in general this is. I am going to be talking about why Monster Hunter is a bad movie compared to the games. I'm no expert, but I have a general understanding, and I have a general subject on what this movie misses out on. But let me give you a small recap to save you probably 2 hours of watch time. This is a 3 a.m. editor's side note. I keep mispronouncing the Ratholos as Rathios or whatever. So for those hardcore Monster Hunter fans, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do this to our boy. So we start out watching as a ship is sailing through the sand. But as the ship is sailing through the sand, a mysterious creature, the Diabolos, attacks. I know that creature. That's in the game. I like that creature. I like this movie. But as the ship is getting attacked in the sand, a guy gets impaled, and I'm already a bit iffy on how this movie is going to succeed. Now, it's very obvious they're trying to recreate World here, and if you doubt me, literally in the start of the movie, they highlight the new world, which is the place Monster Hunter World takes place in, the new world. So I'm already a bit iffy on how it's portraying, but you know, they've at least done one thing. They haven't added the handler to the... Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Anyway, nameless Hunter, and when I mean nameless, this Hunter is named Hunter. I watched this through Amazon, and it tells you like the names of the characters and who's playing them. This guy's named Hunter. This random dude who's like A-lister, I think, in the game, some dude you meet in a cutscene, he's got a name. And it's not mentioned once in the movie. But this Hunter, who we will see for most of the movie, nameless. Even though he looks very familiar to and very much alike to the field team leader, I'm not going to be calling that. I'm just going to call him Hunter from now on. Trust me, there's not many characters you have to worry about. Anyway, he gets knocked into the sand, and for some reason the Diabolos just doesn't care, and we get credit scene. Again, another thing, if you're doubting this is supposed to be a recreation of Monster Hunter World, look at the titles. Anyway, we cut back to the real world with woman name. I cannot be bothered to remember her name right now, but she's the woman who acted in all the like really bad Resident Evil movies. And yes, her and her husband are the ones that brought this movie to life. I don't know why anyone would give them permission to touch a movie again, especially after this one. But back to the story, she is riding around with her army buddies. And as they're riding around, they are looking for a Team B or Team Beta who've just mysteriously gone missing. They eventually find their tracks and decide to have to run away from this giant storm that's coming. They don't make it. And the storm sweeps them up, and they get transported to a desert so white you'd think they got reincarnated into heaven. If you cannot piece it together, they've been transported from our world to the Monster Hunter world. Despite how bleak this desert looks. I'm trying really hard to just not start bursting out in rants right now. I'm gonna try to desperately save this for the end of the video. But they start traveling through and they discover a giant rib cage. A rib cage that in one shot seems to be very far from them, and in the next shot they are inside the rib cage. While inside the rib cage, our dear Hunter from a distance notices them and tries to warn them. So like the good Americans they are, they shoot him. Sadly, they aren't able to kill him, and they get attacked by the aforementioned Diablos. Diablos? That's a monster in the game. I know that. I like that monster. Anyway, they get chased around. Some people die. And eventually they are trapped in the stone area where the hunter was residing. Sadly, they are not with the hunter as they travel through and get attacked by speeders. Eventually, these speeders, I know they've got a name in the game. They're an actual creature in the game, but for the life of me, I could not find it for some reason, and I'm just too lazy at this point. But our fearless hero gets stabbed and gets knocked out as the rest of the people travel on and all get eaten one by one. Eventually, we wake back up as our fearless hero somehow survived, and luckily, and just crawls out of a web sack and is put in this dark, gloomy place where the speeders reside. She finds one of her army men who is currently having little spider babies grown on him. I'm not going to show that on camera. That is just disgusting. Eventually, he gets eaten. She chases off the spider with a flare, heads back outside, and then finds a graveyard of boats. Here, she gets attacked by the hunter. Don't worry, I'm going to tear this scene to pieces later. Anyway, she gets attacked by this hunter, gets captured. The hunter takes her to a safe place fairly aggressively, doesn't feed or give her drink, and then eventually the next morning, she gets the upper hand on him and attacks him. Another fight ensues, in which case she says, "I'm going to kill you." And then, when he's about to die from the speeders, like a light switch for some reason, she decides not to. Eventually, they bond over subtle product placement. Buy Hershey's bars in your local Walmart now. And one thing leads to another. He decides, hey, we're going to take the tail of the poisonous spider to stun the Diablos, and then we can ride free. So you get your montage scene where she seamlessly learns how to use the tools and weapons of the Monster Hunter world, including the dual blades, because I guess. And they eventually are able to get the tail, kill the Diablos, and they head home. Or to his home, to a forest area. I honestly do not know at this point. They make it to a spring, they kill some fish, they eat it, and then eventually the Ratholos appears. The Ratholos? I know the Ratholos! That's the monster! After camping out, there is a stampede from said Ratholos. The Ratholos causes, and they have to survive the stampede. Then, out of the sky, this dude drops. Oh my gosh, it's the Admiral! The Admiral from Monster Hunter World! Oh my... Eventually, after doing something to ward off the creatures and survive the stampede, the nameless hunter is rescued by the handler and other dude, and then the Admiral, for some dumb reason, after seeing woman who he knows is from another world, seamlessly use the weapons of his world, knocks her out.
Don't thank me yet.
Don't worry, like I said, I will go in-depth on this later. So, she wakes up in shackles after people study and laugh at her, and for some reason having the lock of a trapdoor on the inside of a cage. She ends up escaping, meets the palico that cooks. Oh my gosh, the chef! The chef is... After meeting the chef, she gets freed, and grumpy old Admiral tells her, oh, there is a Ratholos at the Sky Tower, and we have to kill it. It is the hardest beast and nearly impossible to kill? Well, I think we're playing two different Monster Hunters here. Anyway, he gives her some dumb reason of, oh, it's weak right before it breathes fire, because that's how that works. And they go off with a whole bunch of people, including the handler for some reason, to hunt this Ratholos. Big CGI battle ensues. She gets dropped back in her world where the Ratholos travels, another CGI battle. She somehow lights the fire dragon on fire. and he wins. And then, despite the motivation of her husband being mentioned twice in the movie, this decides, hey, we have to go back to the Monster Hunter world and fight another CGI monster for cool title card or whatever. I'm just glad the movie's over at this point. But yeah, I just saved you 2 hours of watching Monster Hunter. You're welcome. Now, I know I'm saying I want to view this movie as the Monster Hunter, how bad it is as a Monster Hunter representation. But I first want to mention what I think is bad and good about this movie as just a movie in general. We're going to start with the bad. Starting number 1. Why, and this is by far the strongest anger I have toward this movie that just made me really upset. Why did the hunter attack the woman when he met her in the ship? Like, he was trying to help them. Sure, they shot at him, but then he tries to save them later, and he's stalking her, and then he attacks her, and then she attacks him. Like, he knows she's in a helpless situation and needs help. She knows that he's the only person that can probably help her. When he first shoots his arrow at her, and the people start shooting at him thinking he's an enemy, she realizes, oh, it's chalk. It's a warning. She's an army ranger. She should be able to put 2 and 2 together. So their pointless fighting is just for cool action scenes with enough cuts that I legit thought I was going to have a seizure. Anyway, another bad thing about this movie, I don't know why she decides to spare his life after like 30 seconds ago saying she's going to kill him. There was no moment of realization where she's like, man, maybe murder isn't that good. I don't know why the Admiral punches her and knocks her out in the forest. Like, he knows, it is mentioned that he knows she is from our world. And he sees her use the weapons to ward off the creatures. What they're doing is just spinning. I've got like a katana back there that I could wield in a more stylish way than she was. But so why does he knock her out? He knows that she's been traveling with the dude he's probably come here to save. So why does he not trust her all of a sudden? And then all of a sudden trust her again when the hunter says she's a good person. The nameless characters, the hunters that help fight the Ratholos, just die. And another thing about this movie, one thing they're trying to establish is a sense of danger and urgency, where the creatures are so strong and dangerous that even the strongest of hunters and people who know what they are doing can instantly get killed. I know there's better examples, but out of the most recent things I've watched, an example of this would be something like Attack on Titan, where even the strongest of a hunter can make a single mistake and then get eaten by a titan. So that is a good thing. That is a way to put urgency. It shows that even if the hero is one of the strongest of the group, they are still as susceptible and prone to just immediate death as anyone else. But this only works when you have established characters who know what they are doing die. When you have somebody, even if it's for 5 minutes, if you establish this character has a name, a motivation, and their strength level, and then you kill them off quickly, that's what puts urgency. But the army dudes that die at the start, like, one of them has character development, and it's the fact that he's a picture of his family. Oh no. The nameless hunters that die, 2 of them burn alive in a pool of water. A second one just gets batted away like a fly, and then the handler, thank goodness, gets squashed like a fly after trying to shoot basically a pea shooter at this Ratholos. I don't understand. It doesn't add a sense of urgency, it just makes people seem pointless and useless, that, oh, obviously the main character is going to be the only one who gets to do stuff. But let's say the good of this movie. 1, I do like the little relationship and dichotomy of the woman and the hunter at the start, how he gets to learn to understand her even though they don't have the same language. How everything good he tastes becomes chocolate, because she gave him chocolate and chocolate tasted good. That is something that seems genuine would happen. That's about it. I'm going to tear this movie a new one, because in terms of it being a Monster Hunter movie, it fails at every mark possible, to the point where it almost taints the name of the original series it comes from. Let's start from the beginning. Number 1, Sand Ship. Don't know what this is about. Sure, I'll give you some leeway. Monster Hunter's weird. You can have a sand ship. But still, the whole attack is strange. Number 2, the scenery. We're in a forest for like the last quarter of the movie. The rest of it is dark, bright, bland, gray, rocky lands in a desert white enough to make any man blind. That's not Monster Hunter. Look at any scene in Monster Hunter. White, barren deserts is not Monster Hunter. Next, the Hunter. Now, I understand they try to put him in an urgent situation. He's got limited supplies, he's been separated from the people he usually hunts with. But, if you think about it, in Monster Hunter, if you see people in desperate need, he still has resources. He shows he has a great sword, and there is a pile of ships that they're able to find resources and weapons from. Any hunter worth their salt would see the Diabolos and then the people in trouble, and at least walk out there to help them, not shoot an arrow full of chalk and a couple arrows from afar. That's just a coward move. Other thing, again, back to why he attacks her. Monster Hunter is not dark and gritty where you don't trust anybody. A normal Monster Hunter would probably see people in need, and then the first chance he gets, try to confront them. Because it shows that he knows they're not that much of a threat, because he tries to help them after they've shot at him. He would try to come calmly and be like, me help, I got weapon, I know how to kill thing. But no, he attacks her, which doesn't make any sense. There's this one scene where he starts praying to these god deities. I think it's later mentioned that they're like wife and child, but they are like mentioned that once, and he's doing these like weird prayer things, which is definitely not something in the Monster Hunter games I've played. The Admiral is a abomination to what the Admiral is in the game. The Admiral in the game is big, tough, and joyous. He's got a belly laugh. His quote that they horribly butcher, saying, "Don't be late." His quote that they horribly butcher. Of him saying, don't be late, I hate waiting. In the game, it's put in a context after you've done a major victory. It's like a dad jokingly giving you a threat. He does it with a laugh and a backpack. Here it's just Daredevil acting like a gritty old man, which is not what the Admiral in the game is at all. He's just an abortion of what the Admiral was in the games. The characters, like I said, this one hunter gets a name, and he's never named in the game. They have the handler, but she's even more useless than she is in the game. I meme about the handler all the time. I will always meme about the handler. But here she's literally worse than a fly. And then the dark, gritty scene. This is where the woman wakes up in the spider cave. It's dark, it's gritty, it's supposed to be horror and disgusting. That's not Monster Hunter. The only thing Monster Hunter about this game is when they decide to use the weapon of a monster against another monster. That is the most Monster Hunter thing about this game. Hunt one creature to get the part that you need to hunt another creature. Even the references and the name callbacks, they're just pointless because they don't carry the weight the original games do. The ship, how it's dark and gritty, how they throw the person in prison. They meet the woman, this new person, and they just yeet her in a jail cell. Why? That's not what a Monster Hunter would do. They see somebody using their weapons, even if they didn't know they were from another world. They would be like, "Aw, friend, come eat and drink with us." Not punch her in the face and then throw her in a jail cell. And then when they're studying her in the jail cell as if she's some new creature. You guys are humans too. It's not like you have the old Wyverians or something with you. All the people you see in here are humans, except for the Palico chef. You might realize I've been saying after all this is not Monster Hunter. Because that's what this is. The movie is not Monster Hunter. Because you might make the argument, okay, sure, the hunter doesn't go out to help them because he's limited on resources. Sure, it's dark and gritty because they were attacked by a Diablos and they have no resources to their name. And I might say, yes, that's the situation the movie set up. But why did the movie do that? Look at the hub you first get to in Monster Hunter World. How vibrant it is, how full of life, how people are just going about their day, and the commander is planning his next attack in the open sun, surrounded by the beautiful waterfall and the world around them. That's what Monster Hunter is. There might be parts in the older games where it gets dark and gritty, but that's not, at least not the modern Monster Hunters. At least, especially not Monster Hunter World, the one game they're trying to portray. Why are they in this situation where everything's supposed to be dark and gritty, where everything is careful, where the monsters are more of a predator to the humans? It's, again, a situation where the humans are on their last line, where they can go extinct because these monsters are just so scary. That's not Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is the humans and the monsters are a part of the ecosystem together. The literal plot for the first half of the game is you trying to track and capture this giant beast that has a literal active volcano on its back. Because you can. You don't even learn that it's going to destroy the ecosystem till your final fight with it. The entire point of the game is, hey, see this giant creature? Let's capture it. Because. Sure, you might kill 5 Rathios, but 10 more are going to appear in their place. You're not upsetting the balance of nature. You are a part of the balance of nature. Monster Hunters don't live for the greed and the pride to try to just get by and survive in this cruel world. They hunt for the thrill of the hunt. There's this video that was made before the movie came out. I can't remember the guy's name, but I will put it here when I find it. And he goes way much into, he really describes well the culture of danger around Monster Hunter and how that's what makes the game special. And the movie misses that mark by a million. It makes a dark, gritty world where that's not Monster Hunter. And that is what this game does worst. The aesthetic that Monster Hunter sets, the joyous, cartoony nature, is not any way represented in this movie. Sure, you can't go all cartoony like how the games are, but there's still a good level that I think you could represent in a big movie. This movie just misses everything that makes the games great. Imagine for me, if you will, that instead, let's say it's just the woman. Sure, all her friends just died. All the army people are dead. And she's crawling around in the caverns. She's surrounded by rocks, and these spiders are approaching on her. She's just used her last mag. She's thinking of pulling the pin on the grenade and taking her and several of them out. And then out of nowhere, you hear a yell, and 3 people with weapons twice their size drop from the sky. 2 people with giant axes swing down and take 2 out. This one dude, his axe turns to his sword, sticks in a big spider, and explodes. This second dude pulls out this giant gun, fires a giant shot, a purple Wyverian shot, that blasts out half the others. This last dude, his sword and his axe turns into a sword and shield. He builds that up, reforms it, and this giant shockwave appears, taking out the rest. And then after that, another spider appears, knocks one dude to the side. He gets batted against the wall, falls like 10 feet, but instead of coughing out blood and you can see the life leaving his eyes, he smirks, stands back up, hook shots back onto the spider, and lands the killing blow. Because that's what Monster Hunter would be. How cool would that be? Then the woman, after seeing this, passes out just from the stress, and waking up instead of some cramped jail cell, wakes up on what seems like the bow of a ship. And she looks around, and there's 7 more ships around her, built into this cliff face, where there's a whole system of people working around with the gears and using the pull of the waterfall to power their whole facility. She can see the smoke of a forgery, and these hunters that she just saw get beaten and use all their energy to take out these spiders, and they're sitting, drinking, playing a game of cards. That's what Monster Hunter would be. That would make a great movie. Not this. This final fight, the fight they have against the Ratholos, this big creature that shows up once before the final fight, it gets kind of mentioned with the Scolded Bee team, but you have no idea if you've never seen the movie. Ratholos shows up once, and then you fight him. This final fight, this right here, this is not Monster Hunter. This is a giant CGI battle for those Hollywood crowds that just want to have some fun energy and music. Even the music they don't use from the original Monster Hunter, if I'm right. It's just high energy fight, you're the last one standing, and then you take it out in a giant blow. That's not Monster Hunter. This is Monster Hunter. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I got my point across well, and I hope I can edit this within a reasonable time. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, all that. I'm going to end this video now before I start rambling for another hour and just start talking about stuff I have no idea about. But if I could get one last point across, if you're still watching to the end of this video. If you want to get an experience like this, where it's high energy, about the thrill of fighting, where everything you can do, you can just do it because you can, go play Monster Hunter. I know that's as cliche as it can get, but go play Monster Hunter, because every game still extrudes that energy of the fun and thrill of the fight. A small personal experience is and small spoilers, this is like endgame or near endgame bosses from Monster Hunter World. I'm fighting an Azure Ratholos, which is pretty hard, and I wasn't even the main mission. I was just on an expedition and saw it, and I'm like, well, I got some potions, so let's go kill this thing. And I died like 6 different times, but every time I died, I restocked my supplies and I went back out there. Sure, I banged my desk once, but I decided to go back, because that's what Monster Hunter is. You don't just give up after the first fight. you go back, because that's what Monster Hunter tells you to do. You fail, you go back and hunt it again. You fail again, you go back and hunt it again. Because every time you will get better and better. You might get a better weapon, you might get better armor, but your skills and the way you approach a fight will always get better. So, go play Monster Hunter. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to end this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.